Hey, everybody, welcome back to Locked In College Football. It's been a while since we've been with you, but we all kind of got the itch to jump back in. And tonight we're going to start with what proved to be a pretty interesting game between two teams trying to establish themselves in the top half of the SEC in Auburn and Oklahoma. And we're never the kinds who say that, you want to blame referees. And so we're not going to blame referees. We're just going to say that they probably got it wrong two times, pretty important. And so tonight, for at least a little bit, we want to talk about the two, I guess, what you could call no calls that may have at least, theoretically, if not realistically, made a 7 point difference in a 7 point game. So tonight we're going to talk about the famous incomplete pass that probably should have been a fumble for a score, and then the rule breaking formation that allowed for a wide open Isaiah Satania to run down the left sideline and score a touchdown for Oklahoma on 2nd and 22. So, gentlemen, what do you think? What are your first reactions to those uh, calls and plays?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. The SEC said it. Um, like the SEC came out and said that hey, the refs were the reason that it was messed up. It shouldn't have been, the call it was. So
No,
I find it.
they did they not they didn't did they speak on the fumble, or did they just speak on the
They just
illegal
spoke on
substitution?
the substitution.
Yeah.
But to me that's still pretty
Oh
damning.
yeah.
At least
Yeah.
if one of them's done. Especially with that crew. I think they got more calls than that messed up, but them were the two most important ones.
Yeah, those hurt. But I mean, and I guess I'm kind of an advocate of that because Oklahoma had to know that that was illegal. But I guess if you don't try it, you don't get the business. So I mean, good for them for sneaking one in there and not getting called. But at the same time, according to the letter of the law, what did you say it was? Rule 9-2. Article
Yeah.
2. I think it is.
So the official statement it is NCAA football rule 9-2 and Article 2, which prohibits unfair tactics and simulated substitutions to confuse opponents. So they basically violated the rules, and it would have resulted in a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which we'll watch in a second. But they was on the
Right.
24-yard line, so you take them back 15 yards. That's a way harder field goal. And also if they even don't turn over the ball trying to get a first down there. But basically they just tried to they had a wide receiver jog over to the sideline like he was going to be in substitution, and then they snapped the ball, didn't really allow any
And
substitutions.
and that would have made would that not have that penalty would have made that 2nd and 37, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because it was
it
already
was
second and
second
22,
22.
24. So
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
would
they're
have.
in a. I mean, you can't say that they might not have scored a touchdown. I mean, in a different way, but 2nd and 37, you're probably looking at a field goal right there.
Oh,
That's what it probably would have panned out to be. So I mean, even with that, even saying that the probabilities play out, Auburn probably kicks a field goal, and if that fumble return stood, you still have Auburn winning it before. Now, of course, I mean, there's an argument to be made that Auburn had plenty of problems that would have held them back, but nevertheless, I mean, that was a. I understand, why the Auburn people are upset. I also understand, you gotta get over it. You can't dwell on that. But nevertheless, I mean, I understand it. Rev, we haven't heard from you yet. What say you?
I was going to kind of get into the SEC making a statement. I think that they're fortunate that everybody's making a very big deal about the hideout play and not the fumble, because I think more people probably should be talking about that. But going along with just what the statement said, they said they failed to interpret the play as a hideout, which would be the penalty what they did wrong. You can't just have a hideout that's a unsportsmanlike penalty. And they just said that they failed to interpret that. They should have. They got it wrong. Should have nullified the touchdown. I think that with the situation being as it was and as tight of a game as it was, I think the biggest point that everybody's talking about is like we can't. This goes beyond a judgment call. Obviously, the game of football, especially close games, they are going to be decided sometimes by a judgment call in the moment, whether it be a holding call or a pass interference call or a lack thereof. But I think in something like this, where there are clear rules, the point that people are talking about is like there's no way that the referees should not have been able to interpret this incorrectly. They should have known what it was. They should have got it stopped. But as you said, for Oklahoma, you try it, and if you don't get, if you don't get caught on it and you get away with it, then good for you. And that's kind of what happened. I think there's so much more to this game. You can analyze, like, as coaches, you always, you're watching film, you can analyze 20 different plays that would have won you or lost you a game. Because I mean, if you want to break it down in single plays, it can look like that. In reality, it's a mixture of a whole lot of plays. I think everybody on the other side from Oklahoma is saying, well, don't let us sack you 10 times, and maybe that play isn't as consequential. But from the viewer standpoint, it is hard to see that and see the SEC say, "Oh yeah, we got that wrong," and then just be like, "Okay, I guess we're going to move on and be all right with it." Auburn fans are obviously very upset. The Auburn AD and Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, have had a lot of conversation that they're going to hold on to this for a minute, and
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything. I mean, the game's over. It's in the scorebook. Auburn lost the game, but it is something that you don't just quite get over, because when the SEC admits they got it wrong, well, they're admitting to you that, man, we blew y'all the game. So, oh well, that's a tough place to be in for an
Yeah.
Auburn fan.
Well, I mean, I think too that one of the reasons why you make that statement, because I mean, there's no way they're going to go back. Because I mean,
Mm,
I'm like, I think that we look at it the same way. Because I've heard, one of the things I guess that you will hear coaches who lose say is like the two things is like, well, we're just 2 or 3 plays away.
mm,
Well, maybe you're probably a lot more away, but those are the ones that really got you. I mean, those are
right.
the ones that stand out.
Yeah.
And you'll always hear people who are losing say, well, we're close, and it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. But I don't think either one of those is the case right here,
Mm,
because there is a legitimate gripe, and I think that the bigger picture thing is by them coming out and saying, like, making an official statement on it, they have to, because if they don't, if they don't make a deal out of this, then won't other people keep on trying? And we're still pretty early in the year, and so I mean, I think that they do have to come out and say, and I'm sure they didn't want to, and I think that they would, like, maybe want to say, well, it's a judgment call, but I don't think that one is a judgment call, because I mean, that's one of them old as time, but the rules now don't allow you to do it, because whenever Rev was saying it's a hideout play, I mean, most people familiar with football, they know what that means, especially if you've played it. I mean, you see that in high school and like lower levels a lot. Coach calls a kid over to the sideline, a receiver type, and he's going to talk to him, or you think he's going off or something, and you just lose track of him. Because I know when I first saw that play, I thought, how in the world did he get that open? And so I was thinking it was some kind of like, wheel route or something, because that, they often open up on that, ticks basically. And I thought, how did he get out there? Because I didn't see anybody go. And so you start inspecting a little bit closer, and like, oh well, that's how he made it. What, if it'd been just a few years ago, I'd probably been perfectly fine, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the rule was changed like this past year.
I mean, it's a recent rule, I think.
Yeah, it's very
So,
recent.
I mean, I understand. I mean, they have to come out and say, hey, this shouldn't happen. And I wonder if the reason why that they, even though I think that the alleged incomplete pass was, I mean, pretty bad. Um, I wonder if that one, if they're not going to count that under the umbrella of judgment, even though you have replay and everything. I just don't get that one.
I mean, I don't get the hideout play. You got how many people in the box that are referees looking at every play for every little thing, and you can't say, hey, that was a hideout play, especially with it being a touchdown. That's even more like that. So
That's I mean, it's a tough break. I mean, I understand why Auburn would be mad. I don't necessarily. I think Auburn had, like Rev mentioned. I think ESPN said there was 9 sacks in that game. Um, if you win the game after your quarterback's been sacked 9 times, you're probably pretty dang lucky. I mean, that's just the facts of business. And, you know, and I think that they played a pretty good game, but I mean, there were problems, and, you know, and we'll probably talk about that later on. I think that there are things that they did that kept Oklahoma very much alive in that game, and or not. I won't say alive. I'll say able to, you know, able to keep the lead. I don't think that they helped themselves in a lot of ways on defense, but nevertheless, you know, I think these two plays, you know, are what's going to be talked about. And it'd be interesting to hear what other people have to say about it. Why don't you go ahead and roll that hideout play just so people can see what it is we're talking about.
Hideout play. It's gonna be.
There we go.
That should be this right here.
And so how they'd gotten there is, you know, this was I I also understand this because from a coaching standpoint, Auburn, this is tough because you got them backed up in 2nd and 22 because it was a colossal failure on a punt that just a really wide snap that put the punter in a bad position that landed them on the, I think Oklahoma took over on the 12-yard line. So they were in a mess. Well, Oklahoma got a first down holding penalty. I think it was 2nd down holding penalty, and it backed them up. And so now they're facing 2nd and 22 from the 24-yard line. And so, you know, as Auburn, you know, as defense, you had to be feeling a lot better about, you know, things than what you were. And then you think, you know, well, if you would have gotten this one, all of a sudden, you know, you take those yards, and that's 2nd and 37. And so, you know, you've backed them all the way back to the 39. And, you know, well, I guess you can't say you have, but Oklahoma has dug their own hole. And so, you know, you're feeling very good about not giving up this touchdown, which is the way that it probably was looking to Auburn, is like, well, you know, we got some breathing room. But yeah, so if you look at them, and, you know, Chance and I were looking at this is a good view that we have here of it from up top. Just count the players.
Yeah, let me get this up real quick. So, I mean, now there's obviously 10, and that corner walks up into the box. He's like, okay, well, there's only 10 players.
Right. So if you rewind that, I mean, you can see it. I mean, you know, it's very easy to see. There's 5 offensive linemen. You know, and you got your Z on the line on the top numbers, and you got what looks like, you know, an X, you know, and, you know, you got like a H back right here. So that's 3 receivers, 5 offensive linemen, quarterback, and running back. And if you see how Auburn's got them played, you know, they think that's what Oklahoma's playing with. And, I mean, and this is a pretty good, you know, a pretty big shot of the field. We don't have the bottom numbers, and that's where he's at.
I mean, now, so this is all 22s. I mean,
down there, all 22 minus 1.
I mean, it got the all 22 camera guy confused.
I know. That's exactly it. It's funny. And so you play through it, and there goes, you know, your cornerback. All of a sudden,
closest guys from the ticks all the way to the sideline, to the red line.
No, right there. Just if you just pause that, and you look at that. Look at that. The cornerback for Auburn standing there, you know, right in between the 15, like on about the 16-yard line.
Yeah.
He turns and he's like, you can tell he's like,
what in the world?
What? And you can also see one of the linebackers standing there at the 22. He's like, what? But then look at this guy for Oklahoma standing on the 27, and I mean, he's like revival shouting. They knew. I don't care what they'd say.
As soon as the ball snapped.
They knew what they were doing. I mean, they knew it, because that's just the thing. That's like the universal thing. It's like, yes, it worked.
Yeah, we got him. We got him.
And, you know, good for them for getting them. Bad for the referees for not calling the way that it should have been.
Yeah, they got their arms raised before the ball's even thrown.
Before the ball is thrown, the receiver on the bottom that we can see on tape has his hands in the air like he knew that, oh, we got him here. You can't see it in this shot, but on the other one you can see it. Touchdown. He already has his hands in the air. He ain't even coming off the line. I mean, he's not even running a route. He just stared right at where that guy was going to be.
And that's the thing, when I saw it just on the telecast, you know, version, I thought that's strange that guy's just standing there with his hands in the air. Like,
Yeah.
he must have known something. He did know something.
They knew a lot more than we did at the time.
Yeah.
They knew a lot more than we did at the time, and the referees. Oh,
Yeah, they fooled them all. Fooled
yeah, they
everybody.
did. And
Good for
then,
them.
so I think the telecast probably has a better view of this play. But that fumble play early on in the game, that's a big momentum swing right there. You do that, that sets the tone for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Um, it's 2nd and 10, real early in the ball game, and um, I ain't gonna say whether it was a fumble or whether it wasn't. I think you'd be 50-50 split between who thinks it's a fumble and who thinks it's not, between an incomplete pass and a fumble. I don't think that's the important thing at all. With it being 50-50 between pretty much everyone on social media and their mother, I don't think that's the important thing to point out. I think the important thing to point out is on the field, it was ruled a
Right.
fumble for a touchdown. And I mean, he doesn't ever touch the ground if he called it. So I mean, obviously that would be a fumble, or an incomplete pass. And I think with the incomplete pass thing, you go and look when he catches the ball and you say, okay, he catches the ball. They classify it as you have to make a football move.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very vague judgment call right there, but he turns upfield right there, and that's a football move to me. If you catch the ball, you turn upfield to run. That's a football move to me. But it don't matter. It was ruled a fumble. It's inconclusive. I'll give it that. You don't know whether it's incomplete pass or if it's a catch. Inconclusive. So what do? You revert to the original call on the field. Leave it a fumble for a touchdown. Just leave it. And if it's a bad call, it's a bad call, but it's inconclusive, so you can't really reverse that. Cannot reverse that.
Yeah.
They change.
I think that's the case with it. Is I think you have to go. I mean, even when, because you'll see as many times that it works out for you. You'll see just as many times when it doesn't. I mean, it's kind of like one of those, I guess, law of average things. I think the right positions, like what you said, just we're going to go with the call on the field. There's not enough evidence to overturn this. And boy, I tell you, that was not going to say it's a backbreaker, but it sure was a kick in the gut.
They also changed the wording and the rules, the way it works this year, as far as replay. So they used to always had it either stood if there was not conclusive evidence, the call stands, meaning what happened on the field is going to stay as the call. And then they had confirm, where if they wanted to confirm what they said, or they had reverse if they wanted to change the call. So confirm was like, we definitely agree with the call on the field. Stands was, we don't, it's inconclusive, so we're going to go with what was called live. And then they had call reversed if they changed the call. They have done away with call confirmed. Now it is just the call has been upheld. So instead of giving the fans and everybody who watches and even the teams, instead of giving them a concrete answer of, yes, we definitely agree with what was called on the field, or telling them, hey, it's a bang bang play, we don't really know which way it is, so we're going to go with what was originally called. Now they don't give any confirmation either way. Now it's just upheld. So it doesn't matter whether everybody, they see the replay and like, oh, that needs to be confirmed. They won't give you that. So it's wilder to me, like Chance was talking about, that there are a lot of people who are arguing that this isn't even just a call stands. This is a call confirmed. There's people on the call confirmed side. And then yet we get a complete reversal out of this, and just changes the entire game. This is Oklahoma's first drive at the beginning of a game. And you're talking about, it ends up being a 10-point swing, because they ended it with a field goal on this drive. So I think when people talk about missed calls, especially on touchdown plays or plays that could lead, into points, they forget to talk about the opposite side of the score. So like, this is a 7-point play in most people's eyes because it took 7 points off the board. Well, it's a 10-point play because not only you take Auburn's points off the board, but you continue a drive, which results in points for Oklahoma. So now you're talking about a 10-point swing in a game that ended in 7 points differential. And I think people always forget about that extra points on these drives, that it really does matter. Because now I mean, who knows what happens on the next Oklahoma drive? I mean, now that we can see it, Oklahoma had 2 3-and-outs right after this drive. So you're talking about a 7-point game for Auburn to be leading the first quarter. They go down and they kick a field goal. So it would be 10-0, and then 3-and-out straight away for Oklahoma. That's a huge swing in the game. And instead, what happens? They go down, kick a field goal. Auburn kicks a field goal. It's 3-3 going into the second. And then you get the touchdown that we've already discussed. So
Yeah.
2 big plays have now resulted into 10-point swing the first time, and then obviously the touchdown play for Oklahoma, which is probably at least a 4-point swing. Maybe Oklahoma hits a 56-yard field goal, or another 7-point swing. I mean, that's a whole lot of points that are being dictated by calls in a very short amount of time.
Well, and what it reminded me of, that whenever before the replay, what it reminded me of was I'm sure this is like a bad memories for Chance, but do you remember when when Georgia lost national championship to Alabama?
Yeah,
they went down there to Auburn, and I mean, Auburn stomped them. I mean, it's like Georgia didn't even show up to the game. They were just a buzzsaw. People talk about teams being buzzsaws. That's what Auburn was that year. But I mean, they were something else. And now, Georgia got them in the championship, and probably had something to do. What was that running back's name? Was it Kerryon Johnson?
it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he got nicked up in that Iron Bowl, and I'd say that probably helped a little bit. Not
Which also they beat Alabama in.
They did. I mean, they were a team, but that's what it reminded me of. Is that man? I mean, they're going to come out here and jump on them quick, and I think that probably, and and I don't have a dog in the fight. I would say that that's probably what made this hard for the team, hard for the coaches, the AD fans, everybody to swallow, is that Auburn wants to win, and they want to jump back in to where they had been in really in the recent past. And I know that it seems like there's a lot of seem like there's some negative, like there's negativity around it. Just, I mean, that's me from the outside. I don't know anything about them, but you hear that constant, like, Hugh Freeze this, Hugh Freeze that. And I mean, whatever, they needed this, and to have that pull back, I mean, it would be hard for them not to be bitter.
Yeah, you're talking about a current, when they were playing, both teams are 3-0. Both teams are ranked. Both things have everything in front of them. And from Auburn's, I have a couple friends that are Auburn fans. I follow some people that are Auburn fans, and their whole thing is like, hey, Hugh Freeze finally has a quarterback that can run the offense the way that he wants to call it, play wise, and who can run and who can make some throws when he needs to. And from what, the people that I've talked to that are Auburn fans, there is excitement there, because like maybe now we can finally see what this is supposed to look like. And you're starting 3-0, which, I mean, you play who you play, whatever. Here's your big first test. And now in your big first test at Oklahoma, you feel like you should have started quick, started better than them, and been on top of them for the whole first half. And instead, you find yourself behind. And instead of that momentum kind of carrying you through and that buzzsaw kind of turning on, well, now you're trying to work through feelings of, man, we just got robbed right here. Man, that should have been 7 for us. We're in a hostile environment, and now we're down. And now you're working from behind in the whole game. Whereas this, fan base and this team, they were rallying around this team and the way where it's been at, and the momentum that it was creating. And now you're just talking about just a negative slide all of a sudden off of one game and a few calls, which is very frustrating. I mean, I'm not a fan of either of these teams, but I would like to see Auburn do well. I would like to see them be back in the conversation in the SEC and pushing other teams in the SEC. So I hope that this does not get them way off track where they feel so slighted by this that they can't quite get over the hump. As a fan of a team that took a whole year of not being able to get over what happened to them, like I understand how that can be. So I hope they use this in a positive way and turn it on its head and say, hey, we've got to be even better. We got to be even more dominant and not let a few calls in the beginning of a game or in the first half dictate the end of our games. We just got to be better than that now.
I think that with that was exactly, I mean, not the Florida State side, which that you lived through, but I was thinking, don't let this be your Falcons moment.
Yeah.
Because it could be.
Hmm.
And, that's just, with me, which, I mean, we all three are involved in coaching. And, last year we had a game where the team I was coaching, Gilmer County down in Georgia, we played basically just played our tails off and was basically trading blows. We were trading blows with the eventual state champion. But in that game, we lost starting middle linebacker, starting quarterback in the first half. And something that I learned, because we rallied and we had a good season from there on and missed the second round of the playoffs in Georgia by 4 inches on a field goal. It hit the inside of the post, bounced out. But one of the things that our head coach, who was a legendary coach, Paul Standard down in Georgia, that he told us that night was we were all in there, around, sitting there, in the meeting room, and he said, "What happens next will define what kind of staff we are." And I think that's where Auburn's at, and I think that's where the Falcons were. I think that's where Florida State was. It's like you said, that bounce back means something, and it takes a certain kind of leader and it takes a certain kind of player to say, that sucked, but we've still got work to do. And I think sometimes it's easier to overcome injuries, like was our case, than it is to overcome feeling like you've been ripped off.
Yeah.
And one of the thoughts that I had while you were talking is that I know that some people, they probably think this line of thought is dumb, but you hear it, I guess equally from both ways. I think the SEC is better when Auburn's good. I think it's always interesting because you get interesting matchups when they're good, and I don't think it does anything for the conference for them to just be mediocre or to be bad even. And so I mean I'm hopeful. Like we've all said. I mean Auburn's not a team that that we live and die with, but I would like to see them bounce back from this because it's going to make the conference better.
I'll tell you what, it ain't going to make Oklahoma better because Oklahoma's starting quarterback got hurt at the first quarter, got surgery on his hand today, and they got Texas in about 2 weeks. So, and he's expected to be out maybe all of October, which they have 3 ranked games in October in conference play. So, good luck to them. What I'd say about Auburn, hate that it happened to you, but everybody wants to cure cancer. Everybody wants to end the world water crisis. Everybody wants world peace. Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. So good luck getting your ref calls to be right 100% of the time on Saturday.
And the thing too, and I know that might not be what we talk about here, but I don't know. I mean, there's something that always runs through my mind, and I will say a lot is I don't understand, and I don't like cute. And one of the things that blew my mind was when Auburn lines up in that, like, I call it like a boxing whiskers, quads formation, and throw a dang tunnel screen on 3rd and 2. And it's like, what are you thinking? And so when I see things like that, or when I see like their defense, and we could show several clips of that if we wanted to. They surrendered the middle of the field to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma kept going. And now I'll say too, what's that guy's? Was that, I think his name was it Jaquez Robinson, number 5, who made the play on that alleged incomplete pass. Man, that dude made a fine play on that ball because most times that thing would have been gone. It would have picked up a lot of yards. That little screen would have. So good for him. But the thing of it was what I thought in watching it, more closely, was that Oklahoma saw something right there that if that guy had to make, I mean, an absolute just All-America play right there, I mean, almost like Batman swooping in from from the backside. They don't have a soul cover in the middle, is what that says.
Hmm.
And if you watch this game, Chance and I have talked about that before. How many times did you see a dig route or a drag or a crosser just pick up a first down? I mean, it's almost like it's just like the wishbone but throwing the ball. It's like it's Novocaine. Like they need 7 yards, bam, there it is, because Auburn's guarding deep and they're not covering the middle. And that's what leads me to say that I understand Auburn's perspective on the calls, and I think that they are right to be upset about these, and honestly, a couple more that happened late. But at the same time, you can't shoot yourself in the foot by giving an air raid team the middle of the field.
Hmm.
You also, like Rev was talking about earlier, you can't let them sack your quarterback 9 times. And now, part of that, I mean, I think, and others may disagree with me, but the quarterback, what's his McDonald? That's his name, right? I'm terrible with names.
Auburn's
Yeah, what's his name?
Arnold.
Arnold. That's
Jackson,
it.
Jackson Arnold.
Jackson Arnold. That's his name. I was way out yonder in the field. I mean, he reminded me of the famous game whenever Alabama swapped Tua for Hurts.
Yeah.
And and I was sitting there, and my wife don't give a dang about football, but she has to hear about it sometimes. And I told her, I said, "Man, he looks like a wooden statue back there holding that football."
5
And I was
seconds.
like, I said,
Oh,
you got to get him out of the game. It's like, and because I simply could not have dealt with the pure havoc in my life if Georgia had won that game. I mean, so that's where I was coming from. Everybody would have dogpiled me, but I thought the same thing with Jackson Arnold. I think he's a good quarterback, a very good quarterback. Honestly, he's going to be good for Auburn. But I think some of those sacks, I think that he probably contributed to that cause a little bit.
For sure.
And so I mean, I think Auburn's going in a good direction. I think they can't lose heart, and they got to get rid of that football and cover the middle of the field, because the problem is that whenever one team sees what they see the obvious problems that were there, they're just going to get bigger, in the weeks to come.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a good note to end on. Is that them problems are
Yes,
going to
sir.
get bigger. I think that Oklahoma went into swinging gate and their quarterback converted a second and short to continue a drive right up the middle of the field, running a draw with one guy blocking two because you don't have anybody in the middle of the field. You give up 9 sacks. John Mateer fumbles. You don't capitalize on it, aside from the refs calls. And then, I think most importantly is that your offense is so stagnant that you have to rely on Cam Coleman to do everything. It's just not going to contribute to your success. So
Coleman is impressive.
he is impressive.
He's not enough. I mean, because what you're going to get is that I think that teams they're going to adjust to that, and he's going to be bracketed, which is not to say that he isn't going to make his plays, because I mean, guys like that make their plays, but it's going to be a lot harder as the days go by.
Yeah, I think what you do is you send old Hugh Freeze packing back to Liberty. Let him pick up that program once again from its state of despair right now. As for us here, stay locked in, everyone.